Liam, the white department supervisor of a prestigious downtown bank, prided himself on his sharp judgment and faultless notoriety. Each day he managed with high-profile clients whose riches appeared to affirm his worldview of who had a place within the budgetary tip-top. That morning, as the sun sparkled off the bank's white columns, a striking figure strolled into the department. Lena, a tall, certain dark lady, oozed specialist in her custom-made commerce suit and carried a calfskin briefcase of extraordinary quality. Her entrance turned heads as she made her way to the counter. "Good morning," Lena said with poise, handing over a check. "I'd like to deposit this into my account." The young cashier, Emma, took the check and froze momentarily. The amount was significant, a sum that instantly made her nervous. Regaining her composure, she spoke softly. "Ma'am, this is quite a large amount. I'll need to refer you to our manager for verification." Lena nodded, her calm demeanor unshaken. "Of course. Lead the way." Emma guided her to Liam's office, her own nervousness evident. "Mr. Liam, there's a client here with a sizable transaction," she said hesitantly. Liam looked up from his paperwork, his expression darkening when he saw Lena. Though he masked his surprise behind a professional facade, his years of experience had already made a snap judgment. "How can I help you?" he asked curtly, barely looking at her. "I'd like to deposit this check into my account," Lena repeated, placing the check and her documentation on his desk. Liam picked up the check, examining it closely. His eyes narrowed with suspicion. "This is a substantial amount," he muttered, his tone guarded. "I'll need to verify the source of these funds." Lena's voice remained steady. "All necessary documents and contacts are listed. Feel free to confirm with my legal team." Despite the thorough documentation, Liam hesitated. "I'll still need more time for additional verification. Perhaps you could provide further evidence of your business's legitimacy." Lena's brow furrowed slightly, but she stayed composed. "My business complies with every law and regulation. You have everything required to process this transaction." Liam raised his voice slightly, his tone condescending. "I decide when and how things are processed here." The tension in the room was palpable, drawing the attention of staff members outside. Emma, unable to remain silent, stepped forward. "Mr. Liam, I've seen this client conduct similar transactions before. Her account is in excellent standing." "Emma, you're dismissed," Liam snapped, waving her off. Emma cast an apologetic glance at Lena before retreating. Meanwhile, Lena maintained her calm and professional demeanor. But there was a sharpness in her gaze now. "Very well," she said, pulling out her phone. "If you can't process this, I'll escalate the matter to someone who can." As Lena calmly dialed a number on her phone, Liam leaned back in his chair, feigning authority, though unease flickered in his eyes. "You can call whoever you want," he said tersely. "The procedure remains the same. I can't make exceptions for anyone." Lena didn't respond immediately, her attention focused on her call. Liam fidgeted slightly, his confidence beginning to waver. Moments later, Lena ended her call and addressed him directly, her tone cool yet firm. "Since you seem determined to delay this transaction unnecessarily, I've contacted the bank's leadership team. They'll be very interested in your procedures." Liam stiffened, but before he could respond, the door opened. Emma hesitated in the doorway, holding a tray with a glass of water. "Miss Lena, I apologize again for this inconvenience," she said softly. Lena gave her a faint smile. "Thank you, Emma. I appreciate your efforts." Emma cast a worried glance at Liam before retreating. The tension in the room grew heavier with each passing second, as Liam tried to regain control of the situation. "Listen, miss." Liam deliberately avoided using her name, though the documents on his desk clearly identified her. "I'm just following standard procedures. Verifications like these are mandatory for sums of this size." Lena folded her arms, her voice icy. "If that's true, then you should explain why all my paperwork isn't enough. What exactly is the issue?" Liam hesitated, his voice dropping to a mutter. "The issue is that amounts like this aren't typical for clients like you." Lena's eyes narrowed ever so slightly, though her composure remained unshaken. "Clients like me?" she repeated, her tone cutting. Instead of answering, Liam returned to scrutinizing the check, pretending not to notice her remark. The tense silence was shattered by the sharp sound of the office door swinging open. Eric, the regional director, entered with a commanding presence, his sharp gaze darting between Liam and Lena. What's going on here? Eric demanded, his voice firm and clear. Liam stood, visibly nervous but trying to mask it with professionalism. Eric, I was just verifying a transaction. This check is for a substantial amount, and I needed to ensure. Eric raised his hand, silencing him immediately. You're verifying a check for Lena? He asked, his voice laced with disbelief. Turning to Lena, his expression softened. Lena, I apologize for this. You shouldn't have had to deal with such behavior. Lena gave a slight nod, her tone measured. Thank you, Eric. But I think this situation reflects deeper issues within your branch's procedures, or rather certain individuals' judgment. Eric's expression hardened as he turned back to Liam, his voice rising with controlled anger. Do you have any idea who you're speaking to, Liam? This is Lena, our largest shareholder. She owns the controlling stake in this bank. And you treated her like this? Liam froze, his face draining of color. I didn't know. That's exactly the problem, Eric snapped. You didn't bother to find out. You let your biases dictate your actions instead of relying on the facts right in front of you. Liam stammered, trying to defend himself. I was just following protocol. I didn't mean. Don't even try, Eric interrupted, his voice sharp and unwavering. This wasn't about protocol. All the required documents were there. Emma vouched for her account. But you ignored it all because you assumed something about her that you wouldn't have assumed about someone else. Liam hung his head, unable to meet Eric's fiery gaze. Eric took a deep breath, then continued, his voice cold and final. You have two options, Liam. Submit your resignation by tomorrow morning or face an internal investigation. Either way, you're done here. Lena stood, her gaze steady and piercing. I trust you'll make the right choice, Liam. Though at this point, it's far too late to undo the damage you've caused. Liam said nothing, his career crumbling before his eyes. Eric turned to Lena, his tone respectful but resolute. Lena, I'll personally make sure this is addressed. Whatever changes you deem necessary, they'll be implemented. Thank you, Eric, Lena said, her voice firm but calm. This isn't just about me. It's about ensuring no one else experiences this kind of treatment. With that, she walked out of the office, her head held high, leaving Liam to face the consequences of his actions. The next day, Lena sat at the head of a spacious conference table in the bank's headquarters. Surrounding her were key members of the management team, including Eric, who looked tense, and Liam, who appeared pale and defeated. Lena's voice was calm but carried an undeniable authority. Yesterday's incident at your branch wasn't just a mistake. It exposed a systemic problem, a lack of accountability, professionalism, and respect. As the largest shareholder in this bank, I consider it my responsibility to address this issue directly. She glanced around the room, her eyes sharp as she continued. Eric, I appreciate your intervention, but this problem goes beyond one individual. It's about ensuring that every client and employee is treated with fairness and dignity. Eric nodded solemnly. I agree, Lena. This cannot be allowed to happen again. Lena placed a set of documents on the table. To that end, I'm proposing the following reforms. First, mandatory training on inclusion and cultural competence for all staff. Second, a comprehensive review of internal procedures to eliminate bias. And third, the establishment of an internal mechanism for complaints from both clients and employees. These changes must be implemented within the next month. The room murmured in agreement. Eric was the first to speak up. This is necessary. The reputation of our bank depends on it. Lena turned to Liam, her voice colder now. As for you, Liam, your actions yesterday were inexcusable. Your selective application of standard procedure was a clear act of bias. You undermined the trust that this bank is built on. Liam attempted to speak, but Lena raised a hand to silence him. You have a choice. Resign today with a letter of recommendation or face an internal investigation. Either way, your time here is over. Liam slumped in his chair, defeated. He knew he had no choice. Later that day, Lena returned to the branch where the incident had occurred. Emma, the cashier who had tried to defend her, noticed her and approached cautiously. Miss Lena, it's good to see you again, Emma said nervously. Lena offered her a warm smile. Emma, I want to thank you. Your courage and professionalism didn't go unnoticed. You did the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. Emma blushed. I was just doing my job, ma'am. Lena shook her head. You went above and beyond. If you're ever interested in advancing your career, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. This bank needs more people like you. Emma's eyes widened in surprise and she nodded quickly. Thank you, Miss Lena. That means so much to me. As Lena left the branch, clients and employees watched her with admiration. Her calm yet firm leadership had turned an incident of injustice into a moment of transformation. For Lena, this was more than just about correcting a wrong. It was about setting a precedent and showing that no matter one's position, accountability and fairness must always prevail. With her reforms in motion, Lena proved that leadership isn't just about holding power. It's about using it to create meaningful change. The bank, once a symbol of exclusivity, was now on its way to becoming a beacon of equality and trust, thanks to her determination.